Check it in throughout the night as we go back and welcome Governor Palin to New York. Now, you didn't join the lamestream media when you were working with the Today Show today, were you?
I had a blast with them this morning. It was fun. They said nice things about Fox, too. Nice things about all of you.
Well, you showed a great sense of humor. We'll show some clips in a few minutes, and we'll ask you about it. Let me first start with the vote out tonight. And right now, the exit polls show that Governor Romney's also winning in Wisconsin. So that would be a sweep for the night. He's had a pretty significant lead. Do you think this is getting close to the end?
The numbers show that it's getting closer to the end. Interesting, I spoke with Dana Perino, and she is sharp. Spoke with her in a green room right before coming on set. And Dana and I kind of agreed here that, especially there in Wisconsin, it looks like, despite what I'd been preaching for the last few months, that endorsements don't mean anything, perhaps in that Wisconsin race, the endorsements did mean something. It was quite significant that rolled out this last week. Romney did receive some very high-profile endorsements, and I think reflected in the polls and in those numbers tonight, we'll see
yeah, what they found is over 6 in 10 conservatives in Wisconsin thought that the endorsements were a factor, and over 41% of those conservative voters thought that they were an important factor. Look at the numbers. White evangelicals, again, everything is broken down in the media along demographic lines and exit polls, but you have Romney carrying white evangelicals 42-36 in Wisconsin, 45-35 in Maryland in the exit polls. Very conservatives, 46-40 in Wisconsin, 43-37. Do you think he's turned the corner with conservatives?
Well, in that state, it looks like that is an indication. Did they say anything about the women vote tonight? Because, of course, many in mainstream media, they're trying to make an issue out of this straw man, straw woman, this war on women that supposedly the GOP is waging, and making a big darn deal about that. And I wonder if the poll numbers are reflecting.
We don't have the final polling on it, but he was leading, if you look at, among just about every category. One thing that did come up was the issue of electability. That seems, and experience were big factors here. And the other thing is underscoring the importance of endorsements and the message to close the deal. 48% of voters in Wisconsin don't think he's conservative enough, 41% in Maryland. And hence, that has been the battle almost from the very beginning, Romney versus non-Romney.
Right.
Do you think that remains a factor? And is it for you, personally?
I think it's going to remain a factor until those number of delegates have been solidified and there's no question that Romney is the nominee. And then you will see that support from the conservatives, because conservatives and independent, patriotic, constitutional Americans understand we cannot afford 4 more years of Barack Obama. And many of us have said all along, anybody but Obama. And whomever that nominee will be, and yes, the numbers do look like it's going to be Mitt Romney. There will be that coalescing, that unity, and there will be so much enthusiasm.
So you don't have any doubt that the Republicans, the Newt faction, the Santorum faction, the Paul faction, and the Romney faction will all unite, and that this will be a united front against President Obama. You don't think there'll be residual resentment or hostility?
Oh, thank God. I have no doubt in my mind there will be, no question, it will be unified. This support to oust Barack Obama at the ballot box in November, it will be strong, that unity.
There was talk about the potential, and it came up this week, that Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich might join forces so as to no longer split from here on forward the non-Romney vote. What would you think of an idea like that?
And I've said all along too, Sean, that anything is possible. But at this point, and I don't even pretend to understand how that establishment inside baseball stuff works. I don't want to know how all that stuff works. I just want to know that the voters are receiving all the fair information, the correct information that they need to make a good decision in this GOP nominating process. And the process is working the way that it should. Tough competition, rough and tumble. We had good debates, and now we're seeing the fruits of all of their labor.
See, I agree with you, and I'd even argue that each one of these candidates got a lot stronger in terms of their debating skills. The vetting, I think, in the end, better now than later.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. They have all been strengthened, and, I've said before that a boiled egg is tough to beat, and whomever that nominee will be, they have been through hot water. They have been through a lot in this process, in that arena. They are better candidates for it.
All right, we're going to get into the issue of the Supreme Court with you when we come back. back. We're also going to be carrying the speeches of Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich and Governor Romney. You also suggested that if it's Governor Romney or whoever the nominee is, they go rogue in picking a VP. We'll ask you about that, and we've got to ask you if you join the lamestream media. All right? We'll continue more with Maryland, and we continue in studio tonight with Governor Palin, who is with us. What do you think about people that suggest that, all right, this candidate should get out at this time, or Senator Santorum, it appears inevitable, it's Mitt Romney? What do you say to that?
I will not be one of those people who would say that any of them need to get out. They know what their resources are. They know what they have to offer, and more power to them for being in that arena, being willing to duke it out in the arena of ideas. And as I've said all along, competition makes all of them better. So it's good. It's fine. I do understand, though, why people are starting to say at this point the fiscal and human resources that can be conserved and used most efficiently, we need to start considering how we will start using those to stay focused on the main thing. What is the main thing? It is replacing Barack Obama. So I understand kind of both sides of this issue.
Okay, but do you feel it's pretty inevitable at this point, or do you think?
Well, I'm not going to. I'm not going to say that it's inevitable, and I will not be one to say, nor will I encourage, especially those in the establishment, to encourage any of the candidates to get out. They're kind of on their own on that.
You had an interesting comment earlier today where you suggested that whoever the nominee should go rogue, familiar term for you, in terms of their choice for VP. What would be a rogue choice? Who would you like to see if you could pick maybe 3 or 4 people to suggest?
Specific names? Top of my list is Alan West. I love that he has that military experience. He is a public servant, willing to serve for the right reasons. He understands the Constitution. He understands our national foreign policy issues that must be addressed. He has served. I really like him. There are so many, Sean, that are out there. And when I talk about going rogue, what I want to do is encourage the GOP nominee to not think that they have to go with somebody necessarily safe, that conventional wisdom perhaps would lead somebody to believe that if it's somebody quote-unquote safe, that they're not going to get beat up by the media, because no matter whom it is,
they're going to get beat up.
They're going to get clobbered. The media will make things up about them and their record and their reputations and their families, so no matter who it is. So they might as well get somebody who is passionate and strong, as I say, like about Alan West, understands the Constitution and wants to put government back on the side of the people.
I like Senator Rubio.
He's great, too. He is another one. Yeah. There's a lot of
we have a pretty deep bench.
It is a wonderful bench. It's exciting to consider the choices that we have to put up in contrast with what it is that we've been living with for 3 years under the Barack Obama regime.
You know, you said something very interesting to me. Let me show a highlight, and we're still going to get to the judge issue, which we haven't even touched on yet tonight. But whoever the nominee will be, whoever the vice presidential nominee will be, they will be attacked, they will be demonized. You know, I keep using the example. The president said that Republicans want dirty air and water, and they want kids with Down syndrome, autism, and the elderly to fend for themselves. This was his version of it earlier today at a press conference. Let's roll this tape. I think. Yes, no, maybe. All right,
if this budget becomes law and the cuts were applied evenly, starting in 2014, over 200,000 children would lose their chance to get an early education in the Head Start program. 2 million mothers and young children would be cut from a program that gives them access to healthy food. There would be 4,500 fewer federal grants at the Department of Justice and the FBI to combat violent crime, financial crime, and help secure our borders. Hundreds of national parks would be forced to close for part or all of the year. We wouldn't have the capacity to enforce the laws that protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, or the food that we eat.
All right, let me go through. I mean, look at this. He says children will lose their chance for an education. 2 million mothers and children will lose access to healthy food. I guess all grocery stores go away. Less federal grants combat crime and border security. Parks will be closed, and we can't enforce the laws to protect air, that we breathe and food that we eat.
No more motherhood or apple pie if the GOP is elected is essentially what he's saying.
But that's going to be the strategy because he can't run on his record.
Yeah, exactly.
How effective can that be?
It can't be effective because the wisdom of the people is greater than what Barack Obama is giving all of us credit for. He is insulting the intelligence, the collective intelligence of the voting pool in America, and he's got another thing coming if he thinks that strategy is going to work.
But you know, how does he go from this hope and change personality, and you dealt with this up front and personal in 2008, think of the shift, which is so dramatic, to where how negative he is today.
Very, very negative, very caustic, and he's outright lying to the American people. He has been telling the American people that we only have 2% of the world's oil. Sometimes he'll call it the world's oil reserve. He uses different terminology. That is a lie. And even when he tells the truth about, say, our oil resources, he knows that the truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies one can invent. He's saying these things trying to deceive the American public. So you combine that, the deception, with whispering secrets to the Kremlin, with becoming a judicial bully, and thank God we have choices now as we enter this election cycle.
All right, we got to take a break. As it relates to the issue of the judiciary tonight and his comments to the Supreme Court, which second time now he's tried to, I would use the word intimidate, and his whispering to the president of Russia and much more. We're going to continue with Governor Palin, but it is a clean sweep tonight. If you join live, and we continue tonight with former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, also the co-host of The Five. She deals with Beckel 5 days a week, Dana Perino, and from the Fox Business Network would be Stuart Varney. Governor, can you imagine Beckel 5 days? That's almost like Matt Lauer 5 days a week.
The grace that is all over you.
All right, before we get to some serious issues, you did get to co-host the Today Show today, and we all had an opportunity to see it. Let's run a little bit of the governor with Matt Lauer. I might even say the lamestream media. Take a look.
When you were plucked from obscurity in 2008, you'd been Alaska's governor about 2 years. You didn't have any real experience on the national stage. And in this era of intense media scrutiny, you took some lumps. You had mixed results, as we all know. Do you think if Mitt Romney's the nominee, he should choose someone with more experience on the national battlefield than you had at the time?
Well, you know, I would put up my record as a CEO of a city, of a state, as an oil and gas regulator up against any of the other potential GOP vice presidential nominees last go around.
If you were advising Mitt Romney, would you say go out and get someone who is battle-tested on a national level?
I would say it doesn't matter if that person has national level experience or not. They're going to get clobbered by the lamestream media who does not like the conservative message.
No truer words have been spoken. All right, so first of all, did you have fun? Did you like that?
It was a blast. Lots of energy, lots of chaos, and you know, it makes it look real smooth once the television cameras roll, but it was a blast.
But you had that experience being an anchor reporter in Alaska from
back in the Stone Age, yes. Reporting sports.
No, those are your
yes.
words. All right, did you know that Katie Couric was co-hosting on Good Morning America?
It wasn't just a coincidence that I was on this morning up against some competition down the plaza.
So there was an appeal to you that she was on the competition?
I'm not sure how it all came together, but I am one for good competition.
I really like that.
That's because in the ratings that I saw,
they didn't come out for today yet.
But, first impressions. Oh, some of them, yeah. One of I don't know.
Is that true? They came out?
I don't know.
She's not worried about the ratings, Sean.
She doesn't have to worry about them. She's a Q magnet, as we say in the
I want to know what you were thinking when he was asking you that question. Like, what were you really thinking?
I thought, well, this could be worse. In fact, I've had worse in interviews with them. You know, with questions like, what do you read up there in Alaska to stay connected with the real world, where you're rolling your eyes like, are you kidding me? Are you really asking me such a question? And my answer at the time was, everything. I read everything. And from there, you saw where that answer got me, right? It went
you know, it is interesting, though, because this is a moment where Obviously, NBC was a little bit nervous. ABC's Good Morning America is getting a little close in the ratings. And it's funny that when they need an audience and they need their ratings to go up, they go to one of the strongest conservative voices in the country. I found that very fascinating.
Well, you know what, where they're missing out, and we talked a little bit about Oprah and her new network, OWN network, and why it's kind of struggling. And my suggestion to some of the challenges that she faces is bring some conservatives on. You know, we are a center-right country, aren't we? And we don't want to just be inundated with a message that does not resonate with patriotic conservatives in America.
All right, now
we just want to know what more of the solutions are out there.
You are a natural. You just say what you think and what you know, and it flows. You communicate with the audience, and they watch. That's why.
Wait, here's the next natural question, too. If Oprah called you and said, would you like a show on my network? Would you, and of course she's willing to pay you the amount that you're worth, which is about half her wealth.
Yeah, right.
But would you consider that?
You know, I think that there is a lot of room out there for more conservative voices, diverse personalities out there who can talk about issues that really are affecting people's everyday lives in America.
But I think the first thing you have to say is, no, I'm on the Fox News.
Everybody's always putting her on the spot.
I know. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. One thing we haven't talked about, which is really, really important.
As I try to spin out
I'm not sure if the president knows there was this little decision in 1803 that was called Marbury versus Madison, and we had a Chief Justice, John Marshall, who actually said a law repugnant to the Constitution is void, as he dealt with the principle of judicial review, because these were his comments yesterday about the Supreme Court dealing with the issue of health care.
4 years, what we've heard is the biggest problem on the bench was judicial activism or a lack of judicial restraint. That an unelected group of people would somehow overturn a duly constituted and passed law. Well, here's a good example, and I'm pretty confident that this court will recognize that and not take that step.
Well, go ahead.
It's astonishing to hear that.
It is.
The president is a constitutional scholar, and he's challenging our constitutional form of government. He looks like, sounds like he's bullying it, attempting to intimidate it and subvert it. And coming from the president, a constitutional scholar, that was an amazing thing to hear. And then today you have a federal judge saying, you didn't really mean to bully and intimidate, did you? I want an explanation. In writing, 3 pages, single spaced, no less, on my desk, Thursday at noon. Okay? Got it?
Yeah.
That's astonishing to hear that kind of thing.
I totally agree. Dana?
When I first heard it, I was shocked. But when you hear it again, it doesn't get any better. And for him to get it so wrong. And then you could imagine that the counsel's office at the White House worked all night long to help him come up with a better answer today. And it was not convincing.
I don't think he can walk that back. This is the second time, though, that he has done this to our justices. The last time was at the State of the Union address.
Embarrassing the justices at that time. So how much more evidence does an American voter need to understand that this president is not only just merely in over his head as a constitutional scholar? No, this is the community organizer in him coming out. How much more evidence do all of us need to understand that we cannot afford this flexibility that he is seeking in his next 4 years that he's asking for his ineptitude the next 4 years? We cannot afford to go down this road.
When you couple this with, for example, the comments that he made supposedly off mic with President Sarkozy and the comments that he made with the president of Russia, and I will communicate this to Vladimir for you because he's in the middle of an election year, is there an agenda that exists with the president that he will only tell people? What is he telling people in private that he's not telling the American people?
Right.
If he doesn't understand Marbury versus Madison and what the Chief Justice John Marshall said at the time, And the historical precedents here, that's frightening to me.
Well, is there an agenda? That is the $17 trillion question, Sean. What is the agenda of Barack Obama and the people that he has surrounded himself with to do this to our country, to not understand that our Constitution is the blueprint towards a more perfect union, and he doesn't want to follow it?
One of our colleagues on the 5, Greg Gutfeld, had a great line that if it wasn't for the hot mics, we would have no idea what was going on. Part of the problem, I think, for them defining what they would do in a second term is they never finish the second part of the sentence, which is, I want to be president, I deserve to be president for a second term because what? What does he want to do? Right now, what they've decided is that they can win either way. What if the court actually rules in their favor? Well, then, are they brilliant and not ideological?
Why do I suspect he was tipped off?
I don't. My instinct is that it is not.
There is some speculation about that.
There is.
Why do I suspect that he wouldn't have done this had he gotten a better report?
I think the president is positioning himself very much politically. He thinks he's going to lose 5-4. He's positioning himself to say, I tried. I wanted to give health care to 30 million Americans, but 5 unelected judges stopped me from doing it. Whose side are you on, voters? Vote for me. He's running against the banks, the oil companies, the Supreme Court.
And he offered an alternative. He said, well, if we don't have the individual mandate, we're going to go to a single-payer system.
Which is worse. It's going to the left.
Go back.
And if you don't, 2/3 of the people, roughly, say that they think that the bill is unconstitutional. That doesn't mean that they don't like some parts of the bill, but they think that it is unconstitutional. So what is he actually saying? Vote for me, and you will get fewer decisions that you like from the Supreme Court? It doesn't. It's not very convincing. I don't think that they think through to the third step. Maybe to the next step, to the next day, and then tomorrow there might be something else.
What does it say that the president, I mean, he was even, they're now blaming, Israel having to position itself against Iran for higher gas prices. He's blamed all of us on this table, your former boss, Talk Radio, Fox News, Ed Gillespie, the tsunami, the earthquake.
Don't forget Karl Rove.
Kiosks, ATMs, Karl Rove, And I just, why can't, he doesn't take any responsibility. Doesn't it really come down to an election? Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
It does come down to that, but he must point the finger of blame away from himself. He must move away from his own record. His record is debt, slow growth, high unemployment, a housing crisis. None of those problems have been solved. All are going to get worse in the future. All will get worse in a second term. You must deflect blame away from yourself and point and create an enemies list. You've got to point at the bankers, the oil companies, the Supreme Court, and everybody else.
And you have to add that it will not work.
Governor, look, maybe from your experience for having run in 2008, he can't run on the issue of are you better off than you were 4 years ago.
That is why we see these constant diversions and distractions. We see capitalization on crisis. It's all about diverting.
All right, Governor, we'll continue with our panel here in just a second.